much. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Antes de empezar, necesito decir que si necesitan interpretación al español, hay aparatos ahí atrás que pueden tomar y tenemos a alguien que va a estar interpretando todo en español. Y luego, si están mirando nuestra reunión en Zoom, también hay interpretación, nomás tienen que escoger donde está el globo al fondo de la pantalla, pueden escoger ahí y luego dice español y todo va a estar traducido para ustedes. Gracias.
Thank you. Well, it is with some emotion, but I'd like to go to number 8, awards and recognition. We have an outgoing trustee, Donna Del Rey.
Before we go to that, we need to do adjustments to the agenda.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
That's down here.
Yeah, that's right here.
Or before that, we should do adjustments to the agenda. And the sad part is, as Donna leaves the board, she's always been reminding me of where I'm supposed to be. Now it's up to you.
So I can let you know and let the audience know. So we have 2 adjustments to the agenda. There was an updated personnel action report, which is 11.3G. Copies of that are available in back, and the trustees have been given a paper copy. And then there is also, we found a typo or a clerical oversight on 12.2F, course descriptions for Healdsburg High School and audio production. Unintentionally, I can't remember if it was the CTE or the VPA box was not checked, so we needed to get that checked so that students could get credit for either of those areas for A to G. So, and again, paper copies are available in back, and we'll reference that when we get to the item. We did.
Pardon us for a moment.
Yeah, I think we also need a report out on closed session.
Yes, thank you. Trustee Doe. I'm sure it's not your last reminder. We have another hour or so to go. He wishes. We had a motion in closed session on 4.2, and this is regarding a student waiver. Consideration of the student waivers moved by, I believe, Trustee Del Rey, and it was seconded by Trustee Potmacell to approve this. It carried unanimously.
Thank you. Now we can talk about Donna.
Now, yes.
All right, it's my pleasure and not pleasure to say thank you to Donna Del Rey. How long have you been on the board? 10 years. So Donna got on the board when her kids were in high school, so she had that parent hat on. I was the principal at the high school, so Donna and I have spent a lot of time together. In fact, she hired me as superintendent. And I've always really appreciated her attention to the details and the student experience. And it started when she first got on and she knew what was going on at the high school. And her 2 students had very different experiences at the high school. So she got to see it through multiple lenses. She also had a tremendous amount of empathy and understanding what other students were going through and always encountered everything she did through that lens. Donna and I, it became a running joke that every time she became board president, because we rotate it was a crazy year. And so she was, like I said, she was on the board that hired me as superintendent. And my first year as superintendent was unlike any year any superintendent ever had, with a bunch of different issues, including lead in the water and being on TV news 3 times in English and Spanish, learning how to say turbidity in Spanish. And Donna was a rock. She was the person I'd go to bounce things off, as the board president is. And, we'd joke when she'd cringe every time her phone rang and it had my number on it. Yeah, we even at some points had to go in person to deliver some of the news. But she always was a thought partner, and took everything on with great poise and grace, and gave sound advice, and had the best interests of our kids at heart in everything she did. And you've done it every time as president and not president when you're on as a trustee. And I've really appreciated, Donna, getting to know you over the years, watching your kids grow up. I was actually texting with Gus today about a story. Coach Dominichelli was coach of the year for baseball, so he's going to run a story about him. It's just so fun to interact with your kids and you. And you are going to be missed. nobody's irreplaceable, but it feels like it. And I really going to miss you as a trustee. So thank you for everything you've done for me and for our students and for our staff. It has been a pleasure to work with you over the years. So we have a little gift for you. So everyone knows she is on for today, and then she will show up to the next board, and she's going to do this. Yeah. Dot is very emotional. When her son graduated from high school, she literally cried for 3 months leading up to graduation. And we'd be having happy talks about Great America or whatever, and she'd start crying. So these are tears of joy. So we got you a little jacket to wear to games. It doesn't say trustee on it anymore, but it has the Hound logo, as well as a lifetime pass. Yeah, to all our games. So thank you for everything you've done. I don't know if anything that fellow trustees want to share.
I just want to thank you because I appreciate how you've always taken us to look at it from another angle. And so I just really appreciate how thoughtful you are and how you always have the students' best interests at heart. And yeah, I've learned a lot from you, and it's been a true pleasure working with you.
I will certainly second that. When I came on the board 4 years ago, you were helpful to me, again, pointing out, hey, Mike, we do this, this, and this. But also what is most inspiring to me is that you have always been a champion of our kids. A champion, not just, yeah, okay, do it. And you have always been a champion of our teachers and our classified staff. And I mean, you bring that, and you remind us, if you will. I'm starting to get emotional. So I just want to say thank you for being, at least while I was here for 4 years, being a guide and a very bright, shining light. I appreciate that.
I second what Mike said, and I third what Araceli said. No, I want to thank you so much. And I think the things that I'm really impressed and moved by your service all these years. You know, this is a big deal to pay so much attention, give so much love, give so much professionalism and experience and everything to this job year after year that pays nothing except the dividends of satisfaction and the jacket, of course. You know, I guess, and I also, you know, when I was thinking about being on the board, you were so awesome and helpful to me. And I just so appreciated that kind of mentoring and just kindness and availability because, you know, I was thinking about reaching for something I hadn't done before and you were totally there to tell me what was up. And I've always really appreciated that so much. And I know I'm probably speaking for quite a few other people out here when I say that. So I'm going to miss you so much. I'm going to miss all your expertise and just all of the things that everyone else said are true for me too. So thanks, Donna.
I have to go now too. No, I definitely agree with everyone who said good things about you. I think I especially appreciate you welcoming into your home before I was elected to have a conversation about why I wanted to be on the board and to offer some advice too. I think I really, really appreciated that and your advocacy for students and for students' lunches, man, like that. Like,
I know. I was going to say that.
Yeah. So thank you, Donna, for your time. Like mentioned before, 10 years, unpaid, lots of hours reading documents, and thank you.
Lots of difficult phone calls.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an honor and a privilege for sure. And
Yeah.
I can talk especially. We've come a long way. I know it feels like sometimes we get really stuck in we have more to do, but I've seen it. I've seen 10 years of amazing things. So thank you.
And like Donna said, she has promised that she's not going to go away
Yeah,
and
I'm
continue to work with us, particularly in advocacy of having, more scratch cooking and fresh produce locally grown in our school lunches. So she's going to continue to work with us in that capacity. So we're not losing her. We're just switching
just new
hats.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Donna.
My pleasure.
It's nice not to say trustee, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Not to be shared with Jim. Yeah. Yeah. We can get into the dances if you want. Yeah.
That are very, I don't know, like-minded isn't the right word because it sounds like we all just agree to everything, but are, again, student-focused, always looking for how to do things better, how to improve in a way that's very cooperative and productive. So you guys are great. You'll be great. So, okay, thank you. Enough.
Thank you, Donna. Public comments on non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent.
You skipped celebrating our success. Sorry.
Donna, come on. You're not off the board. Why did I check that one? Because I was celebrating Donna.
Yep.
I'd like to go to number 9, celebrating our successes. This is great. Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day.
So we have Principal Doherty here to share about the wonderful walk to school that we had last week.
Is that better? Okay. I'd like to say thank you so much to Trustee Del Rey for your years of service. You know, I sent everybody the invitation, so you know a lot about Ruby Bridges, but I will just kind of repeat a little bit about who she is. A lot of the kids are like, is she still alive? She is still alive. So back in 1960, Ruby Bridges was 6 years old, and she was the first African-American student to integrate the schools in the South. She was in New Orleans, and she went to school amidst hatred, and terrible things were said to her, terrible racist slurs, terrible people. Well, I shouldn't say that, but they said terrible things. And Ruby walked to school every day through that, every day for a whole year. She had the U.S. Marshals walking her to school to keep her safe in that situation. And when she arrived at school, she was the only student in her class with her teacher. So she would spend all day, every day with just that one person, that one teacher, who she developed a really close relationship with and who helped her write her book later when she was an adult. So to honor Ruby and her bravery in the face of absolute racism, then some students in the South Bay area a few years ago heard about her story, and they wanted to honor her, and so they took this idea to the legislature in California to do a Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day, kind of part of the walk and roll that is done regularly. And they not only took it to the California legislature, which it passed, that there's declared a Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day, but also now I think something like 26 states celebrate that day. So that's the action that our very young students, these were fifth graders, very young students can take. So Ruby as a 6-year-old and then these students as fifth graders really helped change the world. And so we wanted to participate in that at Healdsburg Elementary School, and we met in the plaza on November 9th, and we shouted our chants to Ruby, and we walked all the way to school, and it was really just an uplifting time. The children were super excited and happy to be there, and I think that they felt something. They felt that power. The kids were walking with the signs, and they were like, I said, is it heavy? Do you want some help? No, I've got it. They knew how important they were at that moment. So we do have pictures. Sorry, I just realized. So there are some pictures from it. We were also on the news. They asked for a little video, so there was a news clip. And I did a terrible job of recording it to send it to you, but I did my best. And it was just a great day. So thank you also to the trustees who were able to be there. I know not everyone had the opportunity to leave work to be there, but we really appreciate everyone who was there.
I'd just like to congratulate, I'm going to say congratulate you, but congratulate the kids, the parents, the teachers that were there to walk. I have to be honest with you, when I was getting in the car, hanging in my garage next to my other things that hang in the garage, is the cap, the pink cap, which was on, well, kind of pink purple. What color was it?
Purple.
The purple cap.
Purple.
Oh, my wife hears that. She said, I told you you're colorblind. And I almost wore it tonight. I was hoping that you were going to. But anyhow, I think this is great. And I really want to thank you and, again, the staff and the parents, and particularly our kids, for demonstrating to our town that we care.
Thank you. That very last picture with the kids holding books, every child who walked did receive not only the cute beanie, which was super cute, but also a book about Ruby Bridges.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just think that's beautiful. And I understand Erica McGuire wrote a grant for that.
She did, yes.
So, yay. Yeah,
Yep.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for doing this. I've never heard of a school doing this walk. So when I read about it and saw the invitation, I thought that was just beautiful. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. It's just so important today, just like it was then, for everyone to work together to build the best schools that we can for everyone, for all students. Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to 11, approval of consent agenda. Any questions, comments before we need to pull anything? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you. I love you. I know. Thank you. It was pointed out. Yeah. See, I was
We do not have any public comment on non-agenda items.
right.
Okay, so we're okay. Yeah.
Thank you. I am sorry.
You're good. 12.1A.
Actually, public comments on agenda items is
Thank you.
next. Members of the public have the right to address the governing board on any item of interest, provided it relates to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Your request to address the board will be heard at the time the item is being discussed. In accordance with Board Policy 9323, individual speakers shall be allowed a total of 3 minutes to address the board for a maximum of 20 minutes on each subject matter. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Thank you. Moving on to 12.1A, Healdsburg Unified School District Master Plan.
All right, we are privileged to have Tanea Dale and Kevin Chapin back to talk with us about the elementary facilities master plan. You will recall that we had a special board meeting. Was it September? That was October, the beginning of October 12th. At which point you gave us some direction. We talked about at our last board meeting. We have since met with our elementary principals and together created the following list for your approval tonight.
Thank you, Chris. So next slide. Do I have the capability here? Am I capable? All right, so we'll run through. Thank you. My kid brought a little cold home, so I'm trying to protect everybody. So we'll run through pretty quickly just what was included and what was discussed in each site for both the Healdsburg Elementary site and the Fitch Mountain campus site. So at Healdsburg Elementary, and last month you already approved moving forward with roofing and HVAC at both campuses. And so that's something we've already discussed. That's a priority. The warm, safe, and dry is always a priority. The other items that we discussed, a lot of them were site items. And with our discussions with the principals, we wanted to look at kind of breaking out certain things. And so what we've done here is break those out into those categories that we talked about when we had our board workshop. So here is a list of all of the items at the Healdsburg Elementary site, the accessibility improvements and the beautification of the front of the campus. That was a top priority. So we have a number there for that for $2,100,000. Removing the portables and installing some artificial turf at the back of the campus. Replacing the play structure. That's the big play structure that is outside of the kinder yard that is fairly old. Kinder shade structure. Fixing the cracks and slurring, striping, and sealing the whole playground. We did put a sub number under there, which would just be restriping only. That was done a few years ago, and so we were looking at, okay, how can we get something done but for less than the cost of restriping and redoing the whole, or replacing the whole pavement. The small staff parking lot with lighting, including the east entry upgrades. We got a price there for that. And then putting a shade structure back in the kindergarten area at that play equipment. I'm sorry, this one is putting a shade structure over the whole play equipment. So it would be a rather large shade structure. And then all of sort of the interior upgrades to that building, we kind of just lumped together because I think they're kind of a lower priority. We've done a lot of work in there, but there were some things that we talked about, so there's a number there for that. So at the Fitch Mountain campus, again, most of the items are exterior upgrades. Roofing and HVAC, again, was approved at the last board meeting. A new covered lunch structure, this would sort of be over by the multi-purpose room. That was a pretty high priority. And one of the, you'll kind of see, one of the big priorities at this campus, as we discussed, is there's not a lot of good shade, and it's a big sea of asphalt. And so that seems to touch every kid, and that's a big priority. Reconfiguring the drop-off and doing some minor accessibility upgrades. That would be changing the direction so that the students get out on the proper side of the car versus, outside. Replacing the trees in the playground with trees that grow faster and would, again, provide more shade over all of the playground. Landscaping and curb appeal at the front of the campus. There's a lot of bare bark in there. Shade structure, a second shade structure next to the play field and sort of the garden area. Replacing the play equipment, the existing play equipment, or adding a second play area, roughly around the same cost. Improving the drainage of the field, replacing with artificial turf, new fencing, softening the edge. We kind of just lumped all that together because you start to touch any of it, you kind of need to do all of it. So that's the big ticket number there that would take quite a bit of work. Reorienting the basketball and restriping, and then a shade structure over, again, the whole play equipment area. Upgrades to the classrooms, those are minor things, little things that we need to do in there, and then adding a covered walkway.
Some of those upgrades are also like bathrooms and things like that, not just classrooms, right?
Yeah,
so it's interior.
That campus is not as old, but it still has little things that need to be done. So the proposed plan, this is basically all of the items, and this is, again, came out of meeting with both sets of principals and having some really good discussion about what were the things that most affected the kids, what were the real priorities for the kids. Again, roofing and HVAC, that's already been approved. The HES main entry, making that accessible, fixing the landscaping, kind of taking care of that front there. That was the third priority. We lumped some things together because, one, it kind of made sense to do them together. So priority number 4 is the 2 shade structures, one sort of more towards the library and then one more towards the garden. Restriping, putting in the trees, and doing the landscaping. If we're going to do some of those things, they require accessibility, so we might as well do all the things that require accessibility at once so we get the most bang for our buck. At HES, removing the portable and putting in a synthetic turf area. The big toy replacement, The FMC second playground, we talked a lot about, well, do we need to replace it, or would we rather spend that money on getting a second one? And that was the priority there. And then I'm a big fan of, you don't know what you're going to get into. So I always advocate for a contingency, because that's just the way things work. And I think that's why we've been successful in our bond measures so far, is because we've always had contingency money, because you never know what you're going to find. So there's the overall proposed implementation, and here are the funds available. So the money that we got in reimbursement from OPSC, that's the $8.9 million. We have about $900,000 in developer fees and $900,000 in some special reserves, capital outlay monies that we can use towards that. So that's all the money worked at this point.
So
And
this is our list of what we can afford right now,
Yeah.
right? That last slide. So we have money in hand to be able to do these, should you approve this list.
And then we just wanted to, again, sort of in a list format, if I can click properly. Here are the things that weren't put on that priority list. So just giving you sort of a total.
But these are in priority order as well, correct?
These are in
Yeah.
priority order. We did that when we met. So if we don't have as many issues as I thought we might have, that we have some money left over, then we could start picking away at the first two. We don't have enough money to get to the fourth or the third and fourth one. But.
And this list is part of what you're approving. This will serve as a guide should we have more monies in the future to what we would then prioritize in terms of work to be done on the elementary school campuses.
Just a quick question. I'm looking at the 12,530,000. That's based on today's costs.
That is based on today's
So
cost.
if we start this summer, we're good, but if we start in 2 years, we should
Yeah.
anticipate it would be more.
And that's also, to go back to, that's part of my, I'm really not doing well today. That's part of my contingency too, is that, again, these are numbers in today's cost. The thought is that we would, and as far as if we get the authorization to move forward, nothing would be done this summer. We've got to do some planning. We've got to do some design, especially, the front of HES is going to take some design. We're going to want to talk about how that looks. That's an older historic building. And we don't want to have both elementary campuses down in one summer either. So we're going to want to stagger how we do this. So we've got some figuring out of that before we really get 100% going, but we can start design right away.
But we do have 2 HVAC projects going, right?
We do,
Just
but
one,
the point is that HVAC and roof, whichever campus we started with,
Right.
we wouldn't do the stuff at the other campus right away.
So this proposed implementation, this slide you have, what is the projected date to have all that completed?
I don't know that we have that yet. I mean, some of these things we might,
Roughly, I'm not going to hold you to it.
I think we want to look at the first construction starting in 2024. We would try to do the next major construction 2025. Some of the smaller things, we'd figure out how we fit those in there. So let's just say 26
It's reasonable, yeah.
to get everything done. Any questions? We have our architect here too, if there are any questions.
Keep in mind, we have major construction at the high school going on this summer.
Yes.
So they'll be redoing the interior classrooms in the main hall. And then the following summer, we'll be redoing Frost Hall to be a hybrid theater / athletic venue. So
Is that in the sequence that it happened?
Yeah, so this is the priority list. So we would start with 1, and it would either be 1, 2, and 3 would go first, or 1, 2, and 4, right? So we would pick which campus we could. If designing the front entry at HES takes a little longer, then we'd want to do Fitch's roof and mechanical first, with probably some shade structures and some of those. We'll try to combine things as much as possible to get, again, them done as quick as possible. The more bang for a buck, because the more you can put them together, get an economy of scale.
This would happen during the summer.
most of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like we have HVAC hopefully coming at Christmas that was supposed to come in August. So there are some smaller things that might happen at different points, but the whole point of what she's trying to explain is to minimize the number of times you impact a campus with construction.
Chris, would this affect summer school at all?
Potentially. I mean, we just have to shift to a different campus. I mean, so typically we have an elementary.
Numbers and
Oh, no, not numbers. Yeah,
But that's why you don't want both elementary campuses down.
right.
I think once before we've tried to do elementary at like the junior high, it just didn't work very well. So, any questions on what's included in this or the?
Can you shift to the other one again so they can make sure to internalize the second list? This is the wish list in priority order.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
should we come upon $12.5 million? Or some share thereof.
And other funding, is that available now? Could we do that or no?
The 10.7 number on the other slide? Oh, the exterior, we can chip away at the exterior. So we have a maintenance crew that we can start doing that. So find the high priority spots and hit them. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to thank you and our principals. I know you probably arm wrestled as to who gets to go first, but this is great. I hesitate to say that, but I'm sure there's more we can do, but we'll start with this. I'll leave it there.
My goal is always to get to maybe some of these other ones if we can.
Well, I'd like to move that we approve the HUSD Facilities Elementary Master Plan.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0.
Am I still allowed to make a little comment about this?
You
Or is
may.
it over now? Thank you. I just wanted to thank both of you very much and the principals. And I felt like this was a really clear and collaborative process that didn't take up a ton of time to cover like a lot of ground. And it's because everybody was so knowledgeable and prepared and ready to go. And so it was really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. 12.2A, Social Emotional Health Survey Tools. Director Conjure.
Let me get this up for you. Good evening, Donna. I'm gonna miss you. I'm just saying that. Because when you're, I'm gonna burp.
Podcast.
Well, and
Yeah.
you've been such a champion for this work. So, we're doing this in honor of you then tonight. So bringing forward tonight a mouthful, the Social Emotional Health Survey Tools. And I'm only going to be talking for a minute, and I'm going to introduce two rock stars that are in the audience. So I'll get us started. There we go. I just want to put everything back in context and keep reminding us that most of the work that we do is framed with the CASTLE framework. And again, those are the 5 core competencies that we're always striving for. And they are mapped, again, just as a reminder to everybody, they're mapped again to our social emotional learning curriculum. They're mapped to our screeners. They're mapped to Youth Truth Survey. So we are well positioned, I would say, to make some really good data-informed decisions and be very strategic about the kinds of tools and systems and supports that we put in place for students. So, there are many districts who haven't really even started with screeners. It's interesting as we do the MTSS work, they'll say, screeners? What kind of screeners are you using? And wow, how did you, sort of like how and why? And well, I'll tell you why. I don't know what we did before then. I really don't know, because I think we were making a lot of guesses about what students may need, but now we have really accurate and comprehensive data that we use to make intervention decisions, that we use to maybe even make programmatic decisions. We use this in combination with Youth Truth and other things to also guide professional development. It's, with my budget. It's also how we spend some of our money, trying to figure out what are our students telling us, and then how can we respond to what students are telling us. And I want to just tell you that sometimes it feels like we survey a lot, but one of our surveys, there's for the older students, the co-vitality survey,
there's a little comment section, and we read all the comments, and we read them as a team. And there are many comments that we don't need to discuss, and typical, this is why are you even asking us? You're not going to read these surveys. And we get a few of these, and then I get one that stands out that we really feel like needs more attention. So I bring the student in, and he's like, who are you? Why am I here? And I said, hey, look, I just wanted to touch you. You're not in trouble. I just wanted to touch base with you about this comment. He goes, you read those comments? And I said, I do. And guess what? I can do something about them. And so he was really excited. And between myself and the administrators, I can tell you, Amy and Francisco, we were able to really wrap our arms around the situation quickly, just based on, what was almost an anonymous comment that could have gone unnoticed, may not have made it otherwise, but the students had a voice. And we saw some themes about what the students were saying just from those comments. So that's our why, as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to tear up. So because we want to figure out ways to reach the students, and we want to be responsive to what they need. But I don't do this work, but I have two people in the audience who do. So when I was getting ready for this presentation, I thought, well, I could stand up here and talk, or I could put them in the hot seat. So I am going to introduce Kim Harris, who is our mental health counselor. Kim and Corey, come up here. And Kim Harris is our mental health counselor, and she works at the junior high and high school. And Corey Cakeley, he is our mental health counselor at at two elementary schools. He divides his time between HES and Fitch. And they're going to tell, I was going to tell little stories about them, but I'm going to let them introduce, because they both have very unique connections to the district. So take it away. Be kind to them. It's their first time.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see everyone. My name is Corey Cakeley. Do I have to talk about my unique connection to the district now? Okay. So I'm a former student of HES, Fitch Mountain Junior High and High School. I came through all four district schools a while back, class of '95. The high school looks a lot sharper than it did when I graduated, but the same in many regards. So I worked in San Francisco for about 18 years. I moved back here about a year and a half ago, and I landed this job right before we moved. So I got very lucky and really happy to be here. So thanks for having me. Should Kim talk about her special connection to the district, or should I go? What's that? All right. Let me test out my clicker here. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the assessment tools that we're using in kinder through fifth grade. And I want to very quickly ground or frame this conversation around one of the district's mission, parts of the mission, district and mission and values that really stood out to me just now. And that was around using valid measurements for student achievement. I worked for San Francisco for about 18 years, and I saw firsthand what a struggle that is to do around students' social emotional well-being and behavior. Diane was saying, what do we do? Before assessment tools, I'll tell you what we did. We kind of sit down beginning of the year and think, how did last year go? It was all right. It seemed okay. It was really hard to objectively assess our students' social emotional well-being and hopefully progress from one year to the next, or even within one school year. And so these tools allow us to do just that. So as a counselor, this stuff is really exciting. And I sometimes talk longer than I should when I'm excited about things, so I will try to keep it focused here. So the student assessment experience, so this is, again, at HES and Fitch, what our students are doing. The Cell Web assessment survey is done on Chromebooks. Students, I think there's a roughly 2-week window in the fall and then again in the spring. wherein students log in with their Clever badge and go through this survey. Importantly, it is read to them. So the questions are narrated, and students can choose select English or Spanish to go through the survey in either language. And they take that, of course, in their classrooms. Okay, so that's what a very quick snapshot of what this survey looks like. I did the survey myself a week or two back, and it was really interesting. I really enjoyed doing it. So what do we get? We have all of our students, kinder through fifth, take this survey. What do we get? We get a lot of really useful information. So here we have an example of an individual student's results. So you see the circle for time point 1, and then the diamond, I guess, for time point 2 in each of the, do I have a laser pointer here? Oh, I guess I don't. Sorry, rookie move. I need the laser pointer to point what I'm talking to. So we get an overall, average of each of these areas, and then the specific competencies that are being assessed are emotion recognition, social perspective taking, social problem solving, and self-control. This is for kinder through third, fourth, and fifth looks a little bit different. But these shades of green, one thing I don't like about the survey is I wish they had chosen more different colors. But the light green up top is above average. The second color down is average. Third, below average. And the bottom, the darkest green, is well below average. Okay. So that is a snapshot of a single student's, a sample student's results. So we can see time point 1, say September, where they scored, and again, when they take the second survey into spring, how they've progressed, and in which areas they've progressed the most or least. Okay. So specifically, we're measuring. I'm not going to read over all these, but these are the different kind of competencies or areas that we are measuring with this survey. Emotion recognition for kinder to third, and understanding others for fourth and fifth. Social perspective taking, social problem solving, self-control, and a new one for this year for fourth and fifth only is self-awareness. All right. And it's like my remote at home. There we go. Sorry. So this is a sample of fall 21 to fall 22 results. K to 3, a little tricky. It's HES and third grade at FMC. So we see where our students as a whole are at in each of those categories, as well as overall. We see growth in each of the areas, and we can also cut the data really in any way we want, by classroom teacher, by grade. So it's a good way to get broad campus-wide information all the way down to a specific student. Okay, so that's and here we go for fourth and fifth grade, fall 21 to fall 22, and you see self-awareness there. That category, that competency was not on the survey last school year.
Although they look highly competent.
What's that?
They look highly competent in self-awareness. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Way up high. Oh. Jeez, sorry. Go back. Diane, this is the old show. I added a slide. An important slide that said, I got it in my head, I'll go through it. The last slide that I added, was titled, So What Do We Do With This Information, right? So a couple different things. Most importantly for me, it's giving us, as I alluded to earlier, a snapshot beginning of the year and end of the year, as well as year over year, right? So we see progress that our students are making, as well as areas around their social emotional well-being where the most support is needed. More kind of specific than that, I use these survey results as kind of a screening tool to identify students who might otherwise kind of fly under the radar, not stick out to us as support staff nor classroom teachers, but they may have some areas around their behavior or social emotional well-being that need support. So I'll kind of sort the numbers, frankly, lowest to highest, and the students that kind of stand out the most. I'll take those names to classroom teachers, review those names with teachers, and identify, who definitely within this group does need support, who doesn't, and then put together kind of small social skills groups based on these survey results, as well as teacher and parent observation and input as well. So for me, that's the most, in addition to just the snapshot of our progress year over year, that's the most valuable piece of this data for me. All right, and I'll turn it over now to Kim, who's going to talk junior high and high school. Thank you. What's that? It doesn't have a laser.
Hi, my name is Kim Harris, and really happy to be here and meet everyone. I would say that I'll start with my unique connection to the Healdsburg School District. My sister has actually been a kindergarten teacher here. She started in third grade and now has transitioned to kindergarten, and I think it's been 7 or 8 years total in the district. And so I knew a lot about Healdsburg before I came here, and just really excited to be a part of a larger community and help students. My personal background, I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I was working specifically with children and adolescents for the last 4 or 5 years, doing cognitive behavioral therapy, which is designed to be more short-term therapy, really data-driven therapy as well. And so talking about these specific assessment tools to help navigate our treatment is something that's really interesting to me and something that I'm really passionate about. So I was excited to see that there's already tools in place here. And so we can just jump right into kind of talking about co-vitality, which is the survey tool that we use at the 2 secondary schools. So this is what a student report looks like. I just want to, before jumping in and explaining more of this, I want to tell you that co-vitality is really based on strength. So being able to identify like where are students doing well in and how can we capitalize on that, and then maybe areas where they need more support and how can we kind of buffer that for them, to help them be more successful, not only in the school setting, but also just in their life in general. So if you look at the student report, you can see at the top where it says, strengths, areas to enhance, areas for growth. That really breaks down each of the different subdomains into clear ways for me to, see where does a student need help in. And then down below, it kind of describes a little bit more in detail of what each of those subdomains represents for the student. So I'm not going to go into all of those details tonight, but you can take a look and read through, the 9 different categories there. The cool thing about co-vitality is that it actually will give you interventions to try out with the student for the areas that they need extra support in. So you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, one of the student's areas for growth was more optimism. And so co-vitality curates different interventions that you can try out, or one thing that I think is interesting is being able to partner with teachers and other staff members on, this is something that you could actually try out in the classroom. We can see if this helps or if it doesn't help. It gives us more information to work with. And so those are just some of the interventions that you can use for increasing optimism in the classroom. So again, these are the co-vitality measures. There's 4 different measures with 9 different subsets. So we're really testing how much does a student believe in themselves? What is their belief in other people? What is their ability to understand their emotional experiences? So how competent are they in identifying what's going on for them? and then how engaged are they with their life. So engaged living is all about, how excited are they about doing certain things. And so here in the Healdsburg School District, we're focusing mostly on 4 of the main overall scores, and I'll go into that in a minute. So this is the junior high results from fall of 2021 to this past fall of 2022. And so we're really looking for increases in the getting by, moderate, and high thriving risk groups. And we're looking to see a decrease in the high risk, moderate risk, and inconsistent risk groups. And so at the junior high, we did see a drop in the high risk, which is really exciting. And we saw minor increases in the moderate risk and the inconsistent high and inconsistent moderate. And so we're excited by, being able to see the drop in the higher risk and kind of anticipate that in the springtime when we do our survey again, that we're going to actually see those decrease even more, because students have been really excited so far this year at school. They're engaged more in like clubs and, different kinds of sporting events and things like that. There's just a really positive morale on the campus. And so our kind of prediction is that we're going to see that start to decrease over the year. And so let's take a look at the high school. So
Can I ask a quick question? I'm looking at 2 other areas, vulnerable and languishing. Do we want those to decrease, correct?
Yeah, so we would, I think, want those to decrease. If we're looking at kind of like our priorities, like we want the highest risk and moderate risk to decrease. Like that's sort of where our focus is right now. But I think, people who are kind of like on the verge of becoming moderate and high risk, obviously we wouldn't want that to increase as well. Yeah. So along the bottom of that graph are all of the different scores that people will have by taking this survey. Okay. And so for the high school, we saw a drop in the high risk and the moderate risk this year. And so we're really excited about that. We're hoping that like more time out of COVID, more time with students getting used to being back on campus, we're going to continue to see that decreasing. And then in terms of the inconsistent ones, those were fairly similar compared to last fall. And so this just kind of gives us a good overview of where our students are. We're feeling like the needle is moving in the right direction, and we're just continuing to hope it goes in that way. And so for me, I agree with a lot of what Corey said about the way he uses this data and how it informs his, plan and treatment. And for me, I think that the one thing that is also really helpful is being able to touch base with these students who did score in the moderate and the higher risk, which I've been doing over the past few weeks. And, some of them, they score high risk and they felt like, I'm actually doing okay. I don't need counseling right now. And I love the fact that like we can offer that, but they can decide. They have the choice. I will say that there have been multiple students where I've met with them and they're doing really well academically. They're engaged in sports. They do not kind of demonstrate these externalized behaviors that are really apparent in some of the other students that come through my door. And so when I've met with them, they have just expressed like almost like a sigh of relief, like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Like someone is noticing that I'm struggling right now. And to me, that's kind of what really matters here is like being able to catch those students that maybe wouldn't have come across my door if we didn't do this survey. And so that's really rewarding for me. One way that I also use this data is in conjunction with, observations from teachers and other staff members, also just students' own self-reporting of how they're feeling, and any parent concerns too. And so kind of taking all of that information into consideration when I'm going to a meeting with other people on the cost team, which is our coordination of services team, to kind of determine what is the next step for this student. And so this is just kind of one piece of the puzzle, but I think it's a really important piece. I think for me right now, I've been seeing about 30 to 35 students a week between both the junior high and the high school. And I plan to use this data to create different groups on both of those campuses as well. And I know for the high school, a lot of the students I've been meeting with, a lot of them have been seniors. They've really stressed out with just the transition from school to graduation, not knowing what they're going to be doing next year. And so one of my plans is to start a group specifically for seniors to kind of help navigate that transitional time in their life. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to explain. Does anyone have any questions?
So how often do they take the survey?
Twice a year. So
Twice a
once in
year.
the fall and once in the spring.
Is there an opportunity for students to take it whenever they want to? Like if they want, or how do they reach out if they just need the help?
So I don't know if they can take it at any time, but if they need help and it's not a time when there's a survey, I went to all of the classrooms and introduced myself to all of the students at both the junior high and the high school and explained how they can self-refer. And that's an option for them at any point during the school year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have many takers on self-referrals?
Yeah. There's been a lot of students who have been referring themselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those, I love when students come and they want the help. So that's exactly. Yeah.
How is this shared back to the staff, I guess? How? And then is it by individuals or general like we're seeing today if it were more general or more specific?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. From my understanding, it's shared by school site. So the junior high, we kind of broke out the numbers of like what percentage of students are falling into the high risk category, all the way down the list, and same thing at the high school. So teachers and staff did get that information.
And do they have information as to who might those individuals be?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is to you or I'm looking at the principals. So if we have pick it on, I don't even know which one to pick on, but an area or a couple of areas that might need attention, I guess, how is that, one, conveyed to the staff and or maybe it's a classroom or whatever? Because you may have one classroom where there's a lot of potential issues. I don't know what the right word is. How is that, and then what is done in the classroom to build those skills that we're looking for, I guess, for kids.
Okay, just to make sure I understand your question. So if I go back, it's not going. Okay, here we go.
Can I build on your question? And if we go, back to this and that whole optimism in the classroom.
Yes.
And your idea of kind of giving some tools to teachers. Is that happening in secondary?
I would. Okay, yeah, you step in.
So I would say, thinking about the interconnection,
Yeah.
this is where, remember, this is also mapped to the social emotional learning curriculum. So that's where the why try lessons come in. So you might look at a school site and say, okay, according to co-vitality, we're struggling in these areas. So that's right, Amy, that's what I'm speaking to. And so you might say, we're seeing a higher level of this. We're seeing common themes in areas of growth. Last year, we saw a lot of growth for zest, for instance. Kids just, after COVID, they just didn't have any zest for life. And optimism was also very high. So those would be areas that we would try to target. Why try lessons? Again, they're mapped to strategic kinds of classroom interventions. I'm just going to answer your question proactively for Corey's site. That's where they are for co-vitality for those students. The information's a bit more sensitive and it's a bit more mental health focused, so it's confidential. We have the student ID, but it doesn't name them, so only people with Aries access could look at a report and see the person and do the backwards mapping of it. But at the elementaries, each teacher has access to every student record in their classroom. So the cool thing is we didn't show a teacher record, but you could actually see common things within a classroom. And one common area of need will differ from teacher to teacher. So they can also use ruler lessons, their SEL curricula, also map to their tool and implement lessons. There you have it.
So at the high school, the Y-Try is integrated into like seminar classes and PE, those types of things, right? Yeah, okay. Not like a pull-out thing or whatever. Okay.
Yes, thank you. And feel free to stay in the audience after December, please.
Diane, remind me how long we've been doing. Is this year 2 or 3? 2. Okay. Yeah. So that to be completely transparent, we're in the infancy of implementation here. It's super, for me, sitting here and listening to you, it's stuff I know, but hearing it in a very succinct way is awesome. And we've come a long way in 2 years. And we still have more work to do in terms of implementing it system wide. You know, like you two are killing it on the individual level. Like it is amazing. But we obviously still have work to do with social emotional learning and the well-being of everybody systemically. So,
Well, and
yeah.
I will say I would totally agree that you're prioritizing the high risk students as you absolutely should be, right? And finding maybe some of those outliers that aren't as obvious but are struggling, and that's really cool. I look at from the board perspective, I'm looking at this, one of the things we've really been grappling with, like me for 10 years, but us, a little shorter, is measuring SEL on our campuses at a high board level, right? How are we doing? And it really kind of comes back to your Kessel picture with the school culture and the campuses and the district-wide, because you guys are doing the important work student to student, and we're trying to look at how are we doing and how are our students feeling overall, and how is the culture helping that, and how should we be prioritizing funding and whatever programs around enhancing the student experience. And so I'm listening to this thinking, how do we, we're still like, how do we do that? Maybe that's a separate discussion, but it would be an interesting conversation even with you guys about how do we take this granularity of information and how does that well up?
And remember, the Youth Truth data provides some of that too.
Yeah, a little
in
broader
terms of
thing.
Yeah, right. Sense of
around-
belonging and
Right, right. So anyway. Yeah. Well, and as I know, as much as like that report card has been evolving, and it's I think we all kind of agree it's still evolving, and it's still so much for us to absorb because there's so much. So it's kind of, anyway, I'm kind of thinking higher level and strategically based on what you guys shared, which has been really valuable. So thank you.
I have 2 short comments. First of all, I am very appreciative, looking at all the school people out there as well, that this is now, I don't know, systematized, or that's not it, but infused into the system. And we're paying attention. I know we've talked about it. This is not new to us. I know it is other places, but that we're actually paying attention to SEL and proactive in that. And then my other comment or question is, so I understand dealing with the risk piece. What about celebration of like, hey, we're doing really well? I mean, how has that come out in the classroom or to the individual? Just a question.
Like, you might have stopped.
Yeah.
It.
Our leadership class is also focusing on a life skill of the month, so we're explicitly teaching students about certain life skills. Like this year, or this last month was patience. This one is problem solving. And that rally at the end of the month, we highlight the students who got awards from their teachers for the life skill of the month. They can earn little gray putt bucks throughout the month for the raffle.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
No,
Thank you both. And Diane, thank you for all your work and your vision for this.
Yes.
It is amazing to hear what's going on.
12.2B, Healdsburg Elementary School Plan for Student Achievement. Our co-principals.
So I just want to remind everyone, these are first reads of our SIPSs. So they will be back for action with signatures next month.
Yeah.
All right, good evening. So I'm going to start going through, we're just going to trade off each goal. And so I'll just start by saying, with the LCAP being in year 3 of the cycle and the goals staying the same, our goals, the structure, the kind of underlying themes of each of our goals stayed the same. We did some kind of reworking in terms of looking at the measurements. I think that changed a lot. And then also some of our actions, of course, as well. I see what you're talking about. There we go. All right. So our first goal, as it has been for the last few years, is about a reclassification of our English language learners. So, but we changed it a bit in adding HES and the K2 students. And so our goal is that 20% of our K2 students and 30% of our EL students will be redesignated this school year. We use those numbers based off of our last year reclassification numbers. Last year, K2 was at about 18% and 3-5 was at about 32%. So wanted to be reachable goals, but also a little bit of a stretch. And also, and for FMC, the 30% lower than last year, but still a stretch because last year we were kind of making up for some time of COVID and, students not having the ability to be reclassified. So I will point out here the first bullet point change here, and it was a change I did not make in DTS because we're working off of different the summary documents that we shared with our stakeholders, and then also making edits in DTS and this presentation. So the one thing I just wanted to point out that's different language than was in DTS is that FMC this year, one change to the way that we're doing designated ELD is that it is 3 times a week for 60 minutes. Last year, it was twice a week for 45 minutes during Spanish and then once a week for 60 minutes during Walk to Learn. And now all 3 of those sessions are 60 minutes. So students get designated ELD for 3 hours per week. And then at HES, it continues to be the 30 minutes, 5 days a week. I don't think there's anything else. So, and then I will just, the other thing I wanted to point out is continuing to really, last year I think FMC was particularly successful because of the interim assessments that we started to use with the Benchmark Advanced, the LPAC interim assessments, and really looking at that data and using the student at a glance forms to guide our ELD instruction. And so continuing to do that. So we just had our first, end of T1, teachers gave the first round of the interim assessments and really are using that during their CPT to continue doing their planning. And I think that made a really big difference last year. So continuing with that this year and fine tuning the planning that teachers are doing.
And goal 2. The main thing that was added here, this is really about students demonstrating growth on their STAR reading, STAR early literacy, and math assessments. And I think that the prior year's goal was less clear about how we would measure that growth, but the STAR system, the Renaissance system, does have student growth percentiles built in. It's something that's measured, and the 50th percentile is a year's growth in a year's time. So that's what the 50th percentile is, because it's like a bell curve. And so the STAR or Renaissance people say that between the 40th and 60th percentile is kind of that sweet spot that you want students to hit. So we decided that we would see how it goes. We decided to add a measurement to this goal, and we didn't want anybody to be below the 50th percentile. So we put between the 50th and 60th percentiles from fall to spring in this year. So that's how we're going to measure our success with this goal, ensuring that students are growing. And I just want to say that of course, we've only had the BOY, the beginning of year assessments, and then the trimester 1, end of trimester assessments. But we have had amazing, wonderful growth at all grade levels, and we're super excited. We're sharing that information in CPTs, and the teachers are so proud of the work that the students are doing. So that's exciting. So we kind of have many of the same bullet points, I guess they would just be. Bullet points or specific items that we're doing in the classroom and in the school. We did add a couple of things to this from last year. So there is professional development, that's the third bullet point, on the science of reading that's happening at Healdsburg Elementary School. If you don't know a ton about the science of reading, then basically there's different schools of thought in reading, whether people read whole word, like they just kind of get it from being read to and having a literacy-rich environment, which is an important part of literacy. And then there's also the idea that there's a science of reading where the brain learns these pieces of reading, like the phonemes and the phonics, and can blend them and put the sounds together, and that's all a scientific process. And guess what? They're kind of both true, but you know how it is. So we want to be sure that teachers understand the way that the brain works and the way that the brain reads, because a very small percentage of students, maybe 10 to 15%, can actually learn to read from just being in a literacy-rich environment. And the other, 85 to 90% of people need that really specific, direct instruction. And so that's what teachers are learning about at HES this year in professional development. And I'm looking to see, we also did add in that the Kinder Bridge, which we've talked about before, so the board all knows about the Kinder Bridge, but kindergarten students come in and have that opportunity to meet their teachers, but it gives the teachers a lot of great information about students so that we can really meet them where they are and help them to grow from there. And then finally, we also wanted to just point out that both campuses do have a full-time reading interventionist for Tier 2 instruction, and we didn't have that in our list earlier, so we added that as well. Okay. Yes.
Professional development, is it through, are they participating at SCO?
So there's actually several different ways. Thanks for asking. The first is that we had the folks from Journeys, which is our instructional resource curriculum, come in and do a training at the beginning of the year. And it was really taking a look at the different pieces of the science of reading and looking in the curriculum materials to find where those pieces are taught so that teachers had just an understanding of how to use their curriculum materials in a really scientific way. And then there are some of our teachers who are working through the SCO coursework, thinking it's about finished. I don't have my pulse on that one as well, but or my finger on the pulse of that one as well, but we had several teachers who did sign up for that. Most of them were first grade teachers, which is a really important time for learning to read. And then we're also doing essentially a book study, but it's not just a regular book. It's the Consortium on Reading Excellence source book. So it's, about that thick, and it's got everything you'd ever want to know about teaching reading, along with very concrete ways that teachers can take that information and use it in their classroom. So it has, for example, it would have phonemic awareness. Not just what is it, but why do we bother to teach it, and how do students learn it, and then how can you as a teacher embed it in your instruction and make sure that it's taught specifically and directly. So it has that for so many different discrete skills, including things like concepts of print. I could probably go on, but but it's a phenomenal resource, and we're looking at it over time in our staff meetings and also at CPT.
Great. Thank you.
That's her humble way of saying she's providing staff development
That's
on that.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
And
Awesome.
I have a question. The goal is another way of saying that basically that you want all students at or above grade level, 50 to 60% by the end of the year.
No, it's really saying that we want all students to have at least a year's growth or more from from wherever, they begin.
they are.
hmm So this is really a growth goal, not an achievement goal.
Interesting. Okay.
hmm Any other question? Or keep stepping away, and then there's another question. And I really, I really am a kind of a nerd about this goal too. So I'd love to answer more questions.
And I just wanted to mention, because you asked and Tiffany mentioned the SCO Science of Reading. Both of our third grade humanities teachers participated in the Science of Reading series as well with SCO. So our third goal, we continue to want to be a welcoming place where families, students, our community is a part of our school. So goal 3, increase family engagement. This time we added the measurement of looking at that Youth Truth Family Survey data. It's always hard. This has always been a goal that's been hard to measure every year for the last 5 years that we talk about this at Governance Council. It's always like, how do you measure, right? And we could do sign-in sheets and, that sort of thing. But, and we definitely have seen an increase in participation from our families at events over the years. And this year the same. Our PTO meetings are packed, and ELAC as well. But we wanted to have, again, a piece of measurable data. So we added looking at the Youth Truth survey data to help us gauge parent engagement in our schools. And so it continues, that I'll kind of point out, but also say I think we're meeting this goal. PTO over the years has been not a very inclusive group and events, and also as an organization in terms of those who are active in the PTO. And it really has changed over the last 2 years, and this year just incredibly so. And I think we're going to continue to see that and to grow. But everybody involved in PTO, and some of them are representatives of ELAC, but really as PTO, they're just there as parents also. And so, really trying to make every event inclusive and available to everybody. So I think we've come a long way, but continue to work in those areas. Doing the parent orientations for the kinder families at HES and third grade families at FMC. This year we did a welcome event for third grade families, since we no longer do have the welcome back day, where teachers, students, and families get to meet their teachers. It's a new campus. And last year I did hear a lot. I heard some critical feedback from parents about that coming out of COVID, that their third grade students, they hadn't been in school for a year, and then they just got dropped off on the first day, and they couldn't even walk their student to school. So this year we did hold a welcome back event, kind of welcome to campus. It wasn't something that teachers were at, but we had information signs on doors telling families where the classrooms were and a little bit about their teacher, just to kind of welcome them, and had resources there as well, PTO, et cetera. So I think that was kind of a good first step in that transition for families. So it was a couple days before school started. I feel like Principal Doherty should talk about the PALS program, but I can try, and then you can jump in if I make a mistake. So the Parents as Leaders, the PALS program, is going to start with a pilot at HES campus. The first round is just starting after Thanksgiving break, and the idea is to bring parents in who are not as comfortable as traditional volunteers in the classroom, or traditionally coming in and volunteering in the classroom. And so giving them different trainings and opportunities to be involved in the campus. So they may spend one morning learning how to volunteer in the library, and then the next day they'll come back and act as volunteers and do the shelving or do the organization, or another day learning how to help students through the lunch lines. It's different than our older kids. So they, and then, practice that. And so and there's going to be childcare for this training series. So I think it's 1 week long, 2 weeks. I'll let Tiffany.
She's like, I'll let you step in. Yeah. So it'll be 2 weeks long. It's essentially a couple of hours, about 2 to 2.5 hours a day in the mornings. And so we are providing that childcare opportunity so that parents who have little ones can still come in and do this. We have teachers who will be acting as trainers as well. So we're utilizing everyone on the staff to kind of do a little training and then a little practice, and just to get parents feeling really comfortable in different parts of the building. So, for example, teachers will come in and we'll talk about how to work with a small group of students, or how to read with a student without reading it for them, so that when they go, you don't just supply the word, you have some, you give them some hints and some help, but you don't just tell it to them. So we will be doing that, and then they'll practice that. And so we're super excited. The PALS also is Padres como Líderes. And so we are really, I know the como doesn't really work as an A, but that's okay. We're super excited about it. We are going to take 6 parents to start with, and they're kind of working through the program, and yeah, they get a great t-shirt when they finish, and an opportunity to sign up to volunteer for more things. So that's me. I do have it here too, because sometimes I worry whether I'm going to be able to see it or not. Today, it's fine. So goal 4 is all about creating that sense of community, and it really goes to the prior presentation about cell web that and Corey talking. It really goes into that, but it's also taking in our ruler program, which is our social emotional learning. And so we're going to be measuring this one, creating that sense of community, by incorporating those daily activities to support social and emotional well-being and positive classroom culture. We're measuring that by observations, as well as having a defined scope and sequence for the ruler lessons. So that's been something that we've been working on. Kind of like what Nicole was talking about earlier, we do have, as part of ruler, we have emotions of the kind of emotions of the week or emotions of the month that students are learning about. And then there are specific books that are recommended that teachers read with them, and they talk through what these emotions are like and how you deal with the emotions. So not just recognizing them, but also determining how to cope with them. And so that's kind of where the ruler scope and sequence comes in. HES and FMC teachers are doing community circles at least weekly. At HES, it is generally daily. They have their morning meetings, which are devoted to their ruler lesson, and they check in on every student every day about how what their emotion is and where they are on the mood meter. One of the pieces that we're going to be working on getting better at this year is the meta moment. So FMC started doing that last year, but that's coming up for us, and that's really so thinking about what you're doing, and then having that meta moment where you think about your best self and how to really put yourself into that meta moment. So that's kind of exciting. That's what we're doing with ruler. Looking to see if there's anything that was added. I don't think so. I think that's about it. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, our last goal, really important part of our instructional program, and with the merger of the schools a couple of years ago, was that that PBL was a part of our instruction. So this is a goal added last year and continues this year. And what we're really focusing on this year is having a TK to 5 scope and sequence. And so we're starting this work at our January PD day, where all of our TK to 5th grade teachers are getting together, so we can start putting together that K5. What is how TK? I always say TK to 5, because both campuses have documents that we are using and are tracking, each project and the components of that project. But having that conversation TK to 5 to ensure that not only are we hitting the standard, but there's not too much. Not every year are they doing a community service project and something good for the community. Not that we shouldn't be doing that, but that same, like that like kinder project that a few years ago, third grade repeated, and we shouldn't kind of do that sort of overlap. So, and also, there's so many great resources in the community is who's using the Sonoma County Water Agency or Russian River Keeper, and that we're not, overusing those amazing resources and looking at field trips, et cetera. So, I think that is the biggest change to this one, and that articulation and continuing to have, I know that PBL is a big part of instruction at both campuses, and the units are really being, I know last year was our first year implementing PBL in an on-campus merged, in the merged environment of no longer having the two separate schools and being in person. And so, teachers this year are really working on fine-tuning their projects. And then the step of the articulation is a big one this year. That's all of our goals.
Questions or comments from the board? The slides are much easier to read than the document.
Oh, man.
So thank you for doing that. But also, as you were going through it, I was going over the district's vision and the mission and value statements, and it's like they're all in there. So I appreciate that as well. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
There's so much overlap with the LCAP that we just kind of rewrite it in our way that's relevant to us, right? I mean,
The LCAP operationalized.
yes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to build off what Mike was saying, that it was good. It was one thing to read all the bullets, and it was another thing to have you both explain them to us, which was much better. So thank you. And I really appreciate just seeing everything so clearly articulated, and so much critical thinking and hard work has clearly gone into putting these goals together. So, and I can tell how collaboratively you're both working, which is really exciting too. Yeah, and gives so much continuity to the students. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to C, junior high school plan for student achievement. Principal Odetto.
And just a quick point of order. We do have public comments on this, and they'll go after she does her presentation. So.
Okay. Can you hear me? Sorry. Okay. So my name is Nicole Odetto. I'm the principal of Healdsburg Junior High. I'm very happy to be here. Along the same lines as Erica and Tiffany were describing, we are in the third year of the LCAP, and I'm brand new to the district, so our site goals did stay relatively the same. So I thought that I would highlight some of the additions that we're currently working on our campus. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, so our goal 1 is to support all students to problem solve through literacy and mathematics. So this goal generally highlights how we're going to support students with their struggling needs or accelerate students through problem solving in literacy and mathematics. So a few things I wanted to highlight is I took into account our current data, which is pretty hard to navigate considering we've been in turmoil for the past 3 years and me being new to the district. So I left things pretty much the same. One thing I do want to highlight is that our current SIPSA really focused on how we're going to reclassify our English learners. And our current demographic is only about 15% of our students are English learners. So I wanted to highlight more of how are we going to monitor the progress of our students that have been reclassified, which is about 40% of our student population. So I added a few little things in there. So for example, I added the idea of progress monitoring, which is not new, but what I did add was one of our new employees who I'm hoping to get on staff soon here is a new position we created, our bilingual student family and support coordinator. And this human, when they come on board, will be able to meet with all of the families of our English learners at our school. So we have 40 English learners as of today. We got 3 new students in the last couple weeks, 1 being a newcomer. This individual will meet with all families to discuss exactly how their student is going to be able to be reclassified. So when I came on board, I noticed Erica's great analyzation of data came my way, and I was able to really pinpoint certain things that each student might need to do and could do throughout the school year prior to taking their LPAC test. For example, if they scored high enough on a STAR reading test in the 40 percentile, showing their about grade level, that can reclassify them if they had scored a 4 on the LPAC prior. So there are things that students can do within the school year, and I want parents of English learners, especially middle school age English learners, to know that we can really coach their students and just telling them that the end is near if they put in the effort. And I've met with a few families already, and they have no idea. So I think it's really important to let them know, and students explicitly as well, that if we just do these things, there's a way. So we will be holding meetings this year with all families. Another thing that I added to this goal was explicitly preparing for the CAST test. So the culture of HJH last year seemed a little bit rushed when it came to testing at the end of the year, is what I've gleaned. I have a really vast background in preparing for testing, and so I have spoken with our teachers about creating a collaborative effort when it comes to testing. It's a very nerve-wracking time for all of our students, and I don't think that it's something that we should be measured on just their score, but effort, and especially in junior high level, no one wants to take a test. So creating a culture of trying our best and making it fun and interactive and really a team effort across our whole site. I want to take the focus off of just our math and ELA teachers and really share the tasks through all of our subjects. So we are going to make a big effort to have all teachers come on board to support these students with preparing for CAST. So some of the things that we have in mind are making sure that they take all their interim block assessments. So getting students used to the interface of the test is half of the battle. And our students that didn't take a test for a few years and then took a modification of the test last year during COVID really had a hard time just understanding how to navigate the platform and having the stamina to complete the test. So I think it's extremely important to explicitly teach our students how to persevere and make them feel prepared and confident. So that's one thing that we will be doing as a whole entire site this year, is really putting some effort into test prep and creating a culture around trying our very best. Okay, another couple of things that I highlighted. So goal 2 is really our goal that is focusing on enriching our curriculum. So we have a lot of curriculums in place at HJH, and this is how we are going to go to make it relevant to our current students. So a couple of the things that I wanted to highlight is on the first bullet, integrating ELD across all grade levels and content areas. We had a few teachers that do not teach ELD or ELA participate in the summer professional development of QTEL, which is essentially strategies for every content area to integrate ELD practices and, for example, sentence frames or oral dialogue. So helping students and all teachers across grade levels participate in that. And we do have 3 ELA teachers participating throughout the school year right now. Just a little background, it's a series of 3 visits from our trainer. They have 1 full day of planning a lesson, and then they implement the lesson in the class with the other teachers observing, and they go back and refine, retune, teach it again. And we do that 1 time for 6th grade, then 7th grade, then 8th grade. We actually had to postpone 7th grade this week from sickness. We're all sick at the junior high, but we will get that on board, which is exciting. Down towards the bottom, another thing that I wanted to highlight this year is we only have 40 ELD students currently, so our ELD teachers were trying to figure out a way to really get those students to feel confident and excited, and it's not necessarily the elective they might choose if they had the chance, but we wanted to get them excited about it. So we created a little Book Buddies program with HES to foster some sense of community across the district and confidence in our 7th and 8th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th grader ELD students, and they're just loving it. They're showing their true colors, as sometimes in junior high we don't see often, which is how caring they can be and how excited they are to work with the littles. So that's been awesome to see. And another bullet that I'm interested in integrating, which we haven't quite yet, is integrating an element of community service into our AVID classes. So the high school has an element of community service that students complete, and I think that it's very important that our junior high students kind of get exposed to community service at the level, teaching them that walking your aunt's dog or babysitting your siblings isn't necessarily community service, but really explicitly teaching them the idea of giving back to the community. So we are going to pilot it this year in the frame of a day of service with our AVID classes, so that we don't have to expect students to go and find community service at the last minute, but really teaching the 7th and 8th grade AVID classes how they can get involved in their community as a whole and it'll be planned and organized by teachers and myself, so we won't put the burden on the families at the last minute. So that's another thing that we're doing to kind of enhance the curriculum that we currently have. Let's see. Okay, jumping to, I'm trying to be quick-winded here. So goal 3 is really focusing on enriching the experience at HJH. So like I said, junior high is a critical time in growth and development, and it's extremely challenging to get students involved and excited about being at school. And so we're working tirelessly right now at the junior high to get students just excited about being back on campus. And not just excited to see their friends, but excited to get involved in what we're doing there. So a couple of the items that I wanted to highlight is the increase in activities for students. So our leadership class surveyed all of our students to decide or to get interest for the lunch clubs they wanted to run. We had clubs that didn't necessarily make it off the ground because there wasn't enough interest, for example, book club. But I really wanted that one to get. We also had Wheels and Wings, which I thought was really, really interesting, highlighting cars and planes, and we didn't have enough interest, but it might get there. So clubs that are currently happening at lunchtime right now are the Lego Club, the Art Club, the GSA Club, the Film Club, and the Nature Club. So that's really exciting. We have students involved in club activities. And an activity in itself is using the field this year, and the kids are loving it. It's really giving them something constructive to do at lunch and break, which is helpful for our support staff. We started playing flag football this week at lunch, and they're eating it up. They want me to sign them up for a league, which is the same time as soccer, so we're trying to figure it out. But they're really, really interested in that. So that's exciting. One more thing, or another thing that I wanted to highlight was continue to provide opportunities for parent involvement. So getting our parent groups off the ground this year at the junior high has been a little bit of a struggle. I'm really hoping to get representation from all demographics at our PTO. We currently have a little slow start, but we're trying to get there. And our governance council is fully staffed, so that's excellent. Let's see here. Let's see one more thing. Okay. The top bullet up here, maintaining the anonymous reporting system, Stop It. So this is a program that was currently already at HJH, but we just kind of rebooted it this past week, and I've gotten some really good feedback from families about how it's essentially a program that students can report bullying that might be happening at school in an anonymous way. It lets me know, it lets my support staff know, and we're able to deal with it right then and there. So just today at lunch, and students shouldn't be using their phone at lunch, but today at lunch, I got a text message to my phone that said a student had reported an incident, and so we're able to quickly kind of deter anything that might happen / meet with that student right away. So far, we've had a few, not that we want incidents, but I'd rather them come to us rather than them work it out. So we've had a few things come up, which I think has been pretty productive. I'm really trying to highlight restorative practices with our junior high students, and the bottom bullet kind of talks about that. I'm utilizing the SOS Juvenile Diversion Program. So it's a way that I can help reframe the idea of punishment. So inevitably we might make mistakes, especially in junior high, but a way to help them own their behavior and kind of make amends with what might have happened. So if I do refer a student to this program, it could be kind of twofold. It can be for therapy services if we're noticing that they need extra help. And this is a 9-session therapy session, or 9 sessions of therapy that the students will meet with an outside therapist, not Kim Harris, who you already met. And this program is ultimately through the Santa Rosa Police Department. And so the counselors are on our staff, but not really. So sometimes that kind of resonates with students because they know they don't really work there, but they're here. And so it hits a different group. So I've been able to kind of reduce the time that students are out of school if they do make a mistake. There's an element of community service through this program that is checked on by those therapists, and as well as a way to restore their behavior. So they're walked through an apology note or how their behavior might have affected someone else. And I feel like I'm trying to put a positive spin on the inevitable that might happen. So that's been working this year. And then the brand new program that we've implemented is in the infancy stages, but it's 5-star student, and it's essentially a positive incentive program, and it's a way for us to track student engagement. So the way it works is that students all have an ID number, and they can enter their ID number into the computer when we do a student event. So for example, we might do a Spirit Day. And if you dress up for Spirit Day, you can go to the leadership table at lunch and type in your ID number, and it'll track your points. We just bought these cool scanners too, so they can scan their ID card, and that's really exciting for them. It's like getting into the club. They're really excited. So when they're in the club, they're very excited. But it's able for us as a staff. So when this individual student gets a point for a Spirit point, it gets registered into their Spirit team. So we are all on a Spirit team, which is delineated by colleges. So prior to the school year starting, our teacher staff all divided themselves up into colleges, and they teamed up. That it might be, it could be Santa Rosa JC, or we have Sonoma State. We have an art program. I think we have a cosmetology program. So it kind of represents a vast variety of options after high school. And so students are put on these teams, grade level based, and when they earn points for something positive, and it could be showing the life skill, it should be participating in a rally or in a Spirit Week, they get points for their college. And then every rally we boast, like the college that's in the lead, they sit in their college, they play games and get points for their college, which is great. So all that's been good. We have really high aspirations for tracking a whole bunch of things. The staff is really into it, but it essentially delineates how much of our special ed population is participating, how much of our EL population is participating, so we can really tell what students we need to target to get involved in school. And just one other little tidbit that it's really helping with is the students sign in and out of a Chromebook in every class when they go to the bathroom. And so we were able to kind of track that to kind of try to cut down on maybe some out of class time or maybe some things that happen in the bathroom. So that's been really, really cool. And we are able to put a cap on how many students are out of the classroom at one time. So it's a really good way for our support staff to be able to, in live time, see who's checked out of their classroom. There's only 6 at a time on campus. And it's really a good tool to try to just really encourage positive behavior all around. So that's something we're doing for enrichment. I talked really fast. Questions? Any questions? Okay.
You can sit down.
We do have some public comment. Sierra Anderson? It would be. What order would you prefer? And who is one?
Yeah, and Lori. Yeah.
Anne Lauren, come on up. You gave them to me that way.
Hello, I'm Anne Laurie. I'm a parent of an 8th grader at the Healdsburg Junior High. And I am wanting to talk a little bit about within Goal 1, their second strategy, which is how they orient achievement with their IM1 class as an elective. It came to my understanding last year when my daughter was being asked to select her electives that this was an option. And when I inquired, I learned that this was actually intended as an option to track her towards calculus as a senior if she should choose that at the time. And so I felt very confused by I had not had that explained to me very clearly. And it felt like it ran against the ethos that I know has been taking place here in removing tracking. So I wanted to talk about it because I felt like she had to take the 8th grade math course as well as the IM1. And she's doing fine. I'm not here to complain about that, but more that, and I'm not here to complain, I'm just here to bring up and highlight this as what is happening at the junior high. The onus is on the student who is at that time 12 or maybe 13 to choose a double academic class. And math is not super popular, so we should be encouraging them to have those options available. It feels like there's also this intentionality around who is available for those classes. Like the teachers make recommendations, but we don't know what those recommendations are based upon. And I understand that there's a lot of development that happens between 7th and junior year that maybe some students who may not be designated at that time may perhaps want to have that option as a senior or junior. And I know that there are shifts that are happening with the IM1 and how it's being accepted and looked at 4-year colleges, but that many colleges that are highly competitive would like to see calculus. And this is an achieving conversation, but it's also about aspirational thinking and a growth mindset. And I believe that that should happen at the junior high. And I know there are also options within the curricula that you use to allow for accelerated programming that allows more flexibility among students starting at the 6th grade. So that it's not like this one option and this one moment in time and then this one course that's doubled up. And I will say that at that age, the social emotional development is so critical. And so they're losing an opportunity to have a leadership class or a yearbook club or art club and some of these other really, really important pieces to demonstrate. Okay. I do think this is an equity issue that I know this district cares deeply about and maybe has been a Band-Aid to stopgap a little bit of a restructuring a few years ago. But I think that maybe this is time to readdress this. And I know this will be voted upon in December. So I'm hoping that there is time to take a deeper look at this and think it through before implementing this for another year forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, Sierra's next? Okay, I got it wrong.
Thank you, Sierra.
Hello, I'm Sierra, and I'm just going to talk about kind of my experience with math at the junior high.
She's a sophomore now. Yeah.
Yes, I'm a sophomore now at the high school. For starters, I'm a very academic student. I have over a 4.0 GPA, take a lot of college courses and AP courses. Academics has always been very important to me. So in the 7th grade, when we were asked if we wanted to take 2 math courses at once, I said no. I want to take leadership class. That's what I cared about. That's what my friends were in, and that was the teacher I really enjoyed. And to me, the IM1 was kind of presented as something for very, very good students that were really, really good at math. At the time, I didn't really view myself as. So for me, it was like, you were smart enough to skip a grade. That's who would take that class. So I didn't choose it. But my brother did choose it because at the time he was kind of better at math than me. Now, when I got to high school, I kind of realized that all of the private school kids had gone into IM2, and then also the kids that were kind of like the very high achieving academic students went into IM2, while a lot of the kids went into IM1, which is almost at the high school seen as like behind, even though it's at grade level. Now, at the time, I'm going to start taking IM3 so that I will still be on track to get it to calculus by the time I get to senior year, so that I won't have to take extra courses when I get to college, which would just that's just a lot of extra stuff. So I think for me, the main issue was just that it wasn't really presented to me as an option for something I could do, when for kids at private school, it was just like an obvious.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sierra.
Yep.
Amy.
Amy Anderson, please.
Thank you. Sierra's my daughter. Very proud of her. So I first just want to say that I absolutely love the school district and am constantly singing your praises, our praises. So this is an issue, but I just want to say that first, we are very, very happy with the district. So I also want to comment that I am just sharing my perspective as a parent with 3 kids in the Healdsburg district. I have 2 sophomores, 1 7th grader, and I just feel like it might be helpful for you to hear our perspective. And I also don't know how to solve the problem, so I'm just going to share it with you. So we came to Healdsburg from out of state when my oldest 2 were halfway through their 6th grade year. In 7th grade, apparently it was presented as an option to take 2 math courses. My daughter, though, was not told that she should, but my son was. So my son was told, you should take these 2 math courses. My daughter was told, you can take these 2 math courses. So my son, of course, chose to do that because we said, yeah, that's a great idea. But we had no clue what that really meant. Both of our kids were straight A students, so clearly Sierra was also capable, but we just didn't know what the implications were. So Caden took 2, Sierra took 1, and then a leadership course. We just assumed that the teachers or whoever was telling them that kind of had a better idea than us. So I very much regret that now, because Sierra's in all of these AP courses and like computer science, where it's really important that you have that math, and she doesn't have that additional math course. She's gotten comments from kids who came in from private schools or schools outside of our district. Unkind comments, things like, oh, well, you wouldn't understand because you're not in that math course, which isn't her fault because Sierra's got a 4.5 GPA. She takes college courses every semester. She's taken 3 AP courses every year. But she wasn't told to take this math course, this second math course, right? So if I, as an involved parent who have a background in education, I taught at the university before moving here, if I didn't know the importance of getting my kids into those 2 courses, I guarantee other parents don't know that they should be putting their kids in those 2 courses. I know now that my 7th grader, I can encourage her to take 2 next year, but I didn't know that with with Sierra. Really unfortunate, but it doesn't feel equitable to me that I should be telling my kids to take this when other parents don't have that knowledge or opportunity. So that's, I think, my issue. We also have a 5th grade student who is currently in a private school, largely because we wanted the flexibility with his academic needs. We are huge proponents of public school. We love HUSD, and we really want to get him back at the junior high. We have had such an amazing experience at the junior high and at the high school. My daughter's in 7th grade, as I said, and is just loving it. But anyways, we really want to get him back, but we feel like it's important that they have the flexibility to move, just like we support our learners who might need a little more support, that we also support those kids ahead.
20 seconds.
Oh, done.
All right, you win.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, Sierra and Ann, also. Appreciate your comments.
Appreciate all the comments.
Oh.
Thank you. We'll check it.
If there are comments that have been emailed, we can distribute them to the board as well. So, yeah.
So those that are watching, if you wish to email the superintendent, please do so, and we will receive those messages. Thank you. And again, thank you to the 3 of you for stepping up and providing us with information.
Good evening. High
Good
school,
evening.
the last one. I first just wanted to say, Donna, how much I appreciate you and you specifically being so welcoming and to me coming to the district. So thank you. It really meant a lot to me and helped me transition to this amazing district. So Amy Jones, high school principal. If you can remember, ours is a little bit different because we are a WASC accredited institution. And so if you are WASC accredited, your WASC report qualifies as a SIPSA. So it's a little bit different. So I'll go through. There we go. The SIPSA, the site council, our governance council, is responsible for helping us develop this. We did, in fact, review this with our governance council this month, and we will be seeking signatures in December to then come to the board. That describes how our categorical funding is spent, and it's consistent with our district goals. It's developed with input from various stakeholders, is developed after analyzing various data points, and defines goals based on performance. Meets the needs of all students, especially those who are struggling, very important, and describes proposed expenditures to improve academic performance. HHS received a little bit of title funding, a little bit different from the elementary schools. However, it's very important that we have the strategic plans. And there we go. I'm going to make mine short and sweet, the last one. The funding sources. Catechol funding is the federal funding, as you know, that's used for specific purposes for our school site. And it's reviewed by our site council, governance council. So we have our Title II funds for high quality teachers and principals. Title III, language instruction for English learner and immigrant students, and Title IV for student support and academic enrichment. So as I mentioned, our plan, similar as last year, we went through the whole process of the WASC. Oh my goodness, I don't even remember that, honestly, but we did it. So that huge report is in there for you to click on. I think it's like 60 some odd pages, tons of data. And again, this serves as our SIPSA, and this is required for WASC, and all the data and community and all that whatnot is in there, and all our title funds are reflected as well. And if you remember, we are accredited through 2025, so very exciting.
Yeah.
In terms of our goals, we have our LCAP goal number 1, rigor, following our vision, using current content standards and framework to ensure that all students progress in their ability to communicate, collaborate, think critically while removing the traditional predictors of success. Goal number 2, relevance, learning, and instructions that are active, student-centered, based on inquiry, and connected to the world outside of school. And of course, relationships, huge for teenagers. All students and families are well supported, their voices valued, and our learning environments foster equity, empathy, engagement through listening, trust, and respect. So working really hard with that, engaging parents and making sure students feel well connected. And I have to say, from last year to this year, it's a huge shift in our students with the community and the pride, the feeling comfortable on campus. So it feels really beautiful. Categorical funding for our LCAP goal number 1, the rigor. It's the implementation of our standards, our EL Achieve at $5,000. LCAP goal number 2, our relevance, college and career readiness, Title II funds, AP Institute training, and again, relationships, comprehensive program of social and emotional learning, and that's the funding for Title IV for our counseling interns, which are amazing. We have 2 counseling interns on our campus. Just nice to have.
The curriculum?
Yes.
And you're funding it with Title III?
Yes.
It's supplemental.
Supplemental on top of, yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's supplemental ELD curriculum. Got it. Okay.
Supplemental minimal amounts, yeah. And so those are all of our categorical funds. As I mentioned, if you want to read through the whole WASC report, that's really, really our whole SIPSA as a whole. And as I do hold the title of also the MBA principal, I'm going to directly go right into that one.
Please do.
Are there any additional questions on high school WASC fun stuff? Okay. Marcy Becerra. All right, this one is all, these are some beautiful pictures of MBA students. So MBA, our SIPSA goal for them, and MBA is not an accredited institution, so we do have to follow the guidelines like the other traditional schools. So aligned to our LCAP goal number 1 is relevance. So if you look to the left, these are students immersed in the community, which is a huge piece of big picture learning, and they're at the Senior Living Center. And they are teaching them technology skills, and it's just beautiful. And they're going there, and the seniors are eating this up. Can you help me with my remote and program this? And can you help me with my computer? And it's so adorable, and the kids just feel so empowered and useful, and it's helping, and it's lovely. And then on the right side are all of our MBA students with our 2 academic advisors out in the community on a field trip. So fun, happy pictures of them. Let's go. So in terms of MBA with our LCAP alignment, goal number 2, relevance, learning and instruction that are active, student-centered, based in inquiry and connected to the world outside of school. So big picture learning is our overarching program. And in terms of our goals, goal number 1, increase the graduation rate to be 90% or greater. That's our goal, and we're going to do it. And we actually have 5 of our MBA seniors that are going to graduate early. So they are accruing their credits, and they'll be graduating in December, which is very exciting.
That's great.
And we are working on doing a big hoopla graduation for them. They are striving to they would like to have their ceremony at the Raven Theater and do a fancy. So we're working on that. So it should be really fun. Goal number 2, increase individual student engagement by monitoring attendance with Youth Truth data. Goal number 3, increase preparation for college and career by transforming the curricular program into the big picture model. So we are still in the beginning stages of morphing into the big picture learning school. most of the funds go directly to an advisor that works with us directly, and he's amazing. His name is Isaac, and he actually graduated from HHS. So it's a really cool to have him back here in the community, well-connected, helping us navigate, the community and whatnot. So what is Isaac's last name? Yeah, cool guy. I know. Everybody comes back. It's lovely. Yeah, that's him. He's awesome. Yes. Yes. So in terms of the monetary value, relevance, the big picture learning. So the categorical funds funding MBA are the $10,000 for Title I funds to fund this program. And we are jumping in and creating this program, and the kids are connecting to their school more and more each year. So it's really exciting to see, and it's an absolute pleasure to serve as principal of both these awesome schools. So any questions?
Please carry on.
Thank you.
So we had an issue. We had a public comment that actually did come in properly from Zoom that we somehow missed. And so we would like to give, it's Mindy Crack, is that her name? Mindy Crack, the opportunity to address the board. I believe it was related to the junior high SIPSA on the same lines of the other comments. Yeah, and Mindy, we are sorry. We haven't done this since quarantine. Yeah, so we're a little out of practice.
Does this work? Can you hear me?
We gotcha.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to speak remotely. I've got the bug that everyone else has right now. Board of Trustees, I would like to thank you for your time and ask for your consideration on revising the current math program at Healdsburg Junior High. My husband and I experienced firsthand last year with our daughter how the current program is not working to meet all students' needs and creates a difficult path for math in 8th grade. I'd like to acknowledge that I do not have a background in education or math curriculum, and I recognize the complexities behind it. I speak from the perspective of a parent with a child that's gone through the math program. I'm also aware of other parents that have shared frustrations. The fix for the program for students in 8th grade who may want to, who may want the option to take calculus in high school is really a punishment to them to take 2 math classes and forgo an elective. There was also a lack of transparency regarding this math track for high school calculus, and the only reason we became aware of it was through another parent. The path to advanced math in high school should be more accessible to all students. Regarding forgoing an elective, I know personally that many parents, including us, feel that their kids would greatly benefit from non-academic electives for social emotional development, especially at a junior high level. There must be a way to give kids at all levels an opportunity to excel and uphold the pillar of rigor that the junior high stands by. We appreciate the board and all that you do for Healdsburg Public Schools. We hope that this will be considered and encourage a reevaluation of the current math program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. And once again, we're sorry and hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you. And F, Healdsburg High School revised courses for 23-24.
Good evening. I'll try to make this quick so we can get to break. So these courses have been previously approved by the board and by UC. Good news all around here. Advanced culinary, that we now call it, we are requesting the honors designation. And so this is a special new thing. So courses that are now articulated with a community college and have UC approval, we are now allowed to give the grade bump and the honors designation. So this is really exciting for kids who are taking CTE courses. This is a college level class. This is a class that is articulated with SRJC. They'll take a credit by exam. So if they sign up, right, and there's some parts to this. They have to sign up for the dual enrollment. So our counselors help them sign up that saying, yes, they want to challenge the course at a college level. And then they have to take actually a series of exams because there's knife skills, there's safety and sanitation. There's a number of different assessments that our students take in order to earn that college credit and then the honors designation on their high school transcript. And this is a really important thing for me in terms of equity, which means that students would, let's say they get a B in the class, and I put this in the equity and school culture. So if they earn a B, they'd normally be weighted as a 3.0. But if they pass the credit by exam and they earn the college credit, we now can give them a 4.0 on the weighted GPA part of their transcript. And this is only allowable for advanced placement courses in the past, core academics. So this is a really exciting thing. So we're just asking for this revision for culinary management to be designated an honors course. So that's the one. Before I move on to the other two, any questions or comments about that? Yeah, and just thanks to Chef Corsino, right? He's an adjunct faculty member at SRJC. We're the only course, culinary course in the region that's articulated. So while there are many other culinary courses in the region, none have the articulation and then this honors designation. And it's really the hard work of Chef Corsino. So I wish he was here. Props to him. Audio production 1 and 2 were approved by both you, the trustees last year, and the UC. It was approved as a G elective. An error in filling out forms and a little bit of uncertainty about credentialing. So John Chevalier, who has been our media arts teacher for many years and has a CTE credential, had to go through a bunch of machinations with the California Commission on teacher credentialing in order to be seen as both a VPA credentialed teacher and a CTE credentialed teacher. And it was a little bit in limbo when we brought this course forward. That has been worked out, and students should be this year and next year receiving the opportunity to get either VPA or CTE. So the way this works is that because he's dual credentialed, and what we're asking for tonight is for you all to approve the course as both a VPA and a CTE course, whichever course the students need on their transcript. So we're one of these school districts, very odd, unique, high expectations that students have to have both a CTE and a VPA. So let's say a student took art with Linus and they're signed up for this course. They're probably going to want to get the G CTE. However, if they haven't taken band or art, they would, am I doing that right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Then they would want the CTE, right? So it's a dual credential and it's a dual marked course. So once you approve it, we would then apply to the UC for them to dual approve it as well. So that's how we do this, is we ask for your approval and then we go back to the UC and ask.
So I'm clear.
Yeah.
So once it's approved, and I suspect it will be, as both an F and a G requirement going to UC, I can only get either the F or the G for this particular course.
You got it.
And
No double dipping.
No double dipping. Okay.
Right.
I could choose, but.
Yeah.
Okay. And the same with credits.
They get 10 credits, and it either will register on their transcript as a VPA or 10 credits of CTE, not 20 units.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. That's good clarification. One thing that's worth saying, the course content for all of these courses has not changed, right? So what is in the actual course outline, we're just checking some different boxes. We're checking an honors box and we're checking a VPA box on audio production.
Erin, and this course is already being offered, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And how would this affect students who have already taken the course?
So we can apply for retroactive. So students who are in the course right now, if they need it to count as a VPA, we're going to apply in February for retroactive for this year. And usually that's done. It's perfunctory.
And are we informing the families or the student of this option?
Yes.
Once approved?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, in fact, they already know. The students who our counselors were like, this could help our kids. We want it to count for kids who are applying for school right now. So let's get this through, and that's why we're bringing it to you right now. And then as soon as the UC portal opens up in February, we'll apply for retroactive for this current year and then going forward.
And how quick is that process?
Because it's already approved and it's based on a existing course, right? This isn't something we dreamed up. There's many other courses like audio production that exist in other schools that have this dual designation. It should fly through. Yeah, it should be within weeks.
It'll be done before the year. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
a month, 6
Oh,
weeks
Yeah.
at the most. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? So I'd like to make a motion to approve.
We should actually note that.
I will.
Thank you. Okay.
To approve the advanced culinary course as written and the audio production 1 modified to indicate both F and G requirements, and audio production number 2 to indicate on both pages F and G requirement.
Thank you. You got it.
All right.
Thank you for finding my error.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor? Aye. It passes 5-0. And, no, we got reports. We have report. I know I was with there. Okay, reports. Time is limited to 30 seconds per, no, I'm just teasing.
You're
Come
up,
on
Robin.
Exactly. Times 20. How's that? That's math. High math for me. Stamina.
Yeah, we're like 15-20% at absence rates. So yeah. Robin, is your mic on? Is the light on?
No.
There we go. Just want to make sure our Zoomers hear us.
I know I use the soft voice in my classroom. Works really well. And the directions are. All right. The elementary staff is excited to bring back the winter performance. It's the first time since 2019. Yay. Okay. And the elementary teachers are very aware of the importance of the school site plan, and they very much would like to be a part of the development of the plan. They are looking forward to working on the development of this document by giving their professional perspective. School site plans are important because the school site council dollars are distributed using these goals, and the teachers are held accountable for these goals. Number 3. Healdsburg Junior High is very, very happy with our administrator, and we cannot begin to say how much. It's just amazing. I want to tell you that a month ago, the junior high got to look at the school site plan and got to discuss it. She asked for our professional opinion and asked us what had been going on and take a look at what it said. So it was really nice to have our professional opinions listened to. Let's see. Healdsburg High School, super, super busy right now. They're doing a lot of discussion on schedules. That's what I got out of them. So they said they're busy. And Hatta's looking forward to negotiations beginning in January. And Hatta is hopeful that the district will recognize all of the hard work that teachers have been doing to help HUSD students academically and socially emotional needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. Do we have a CSEA report? No. Do we have the trustee is not here?
Abigail had a conflict in FFA 1. So yeah, which it should. Yeah.
Any reports from Board of Trustees? I will just make a quick one. There was a meeting between the district, present was the superintendent and Director Fender, with and Trustee Lopez, kind of dual, and with meeting with Corazon representatives and the city, and to
Ian Acosta.
And thank you, Mr. Acosta. Yeah, Curtis was there. An important part of this to look at how we're all doing work in the area of equity and anti-institutionalized racism. We all have coming from different organizations, obviously, but the effort now is to see how we can work together, how we can bring this not just to the district or just to the city or just to Corazon, but to our whole community, starting from our little ones all the way up to older folks. So I'm very thrilled about that. And again, these are first steps, and I look forward to more meetings with them. Did you want to elucidate? That's good. Okay. Any other comments or reports? We will take a 5-minute break. We will be back at 8:30.
So about a month or so ago, I had the great pleasure of attending and presenting with my colleague here, Robin Doherty, Gloria Hurtado, and Joan Easterday, who's our facilitator of our math project, our lesson study project at the National Council of the Teachers of Mathematics. So we went to the NCTM conference. It was in Los Angeles. We were invited to present. Really fun to go to a teacher-based conference, right? I go to the admin ones sometimes, and it was fun. I was in one session, and they were talking about using problems, and I couldn't do the math, and the presenter was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I don't know how to do this, so I'm just gonna listen." Yeah. But one of my aims being there, because it is the national convention, right? We're talking about thousands of math teachers from across the country convening. And so the vendors put on a big show. It's at the conference center in Los Angeles. So the big hall of vendors is full. They're ready to sell their wares. And one of my aims was to find some companies that were specifically making material for elementary special educators. We've done a lot of work on math in our district, but we know a need has been curriculum materials for our 2 full-time special education teachers at each of the 2 schools that do pull-out programs and or provide really a base mathematical instruction for our students with severe learning disabilities. And they're doing great, right? 2 amazing people that work their tails off, but they're like, it'd be nice to have something a little more set. And so that was my aim, and hit the vendor hall and found Bridges. And Bridges has a full complement of curriculum. Bridges has a regular K-5 curriculum, but they specifically make a curriculum to support students who have higher needs. And so got the pitch, listened to, what they had. And the nice thing about the vendor hall is the material is all there. So you get both the salesperson, but they also had a principal and a teacher there who used the curriculum talking about it. And I was really struck by it and thought this might be what we need. And so our teachers got access, free online access, and started taking a look at it. And we had a nice online session where we were provided an overview and we were able to ask our questions. And our teachers, administrators, and Ms. Conger think that we're ready to go ahead and pilot for this year. And so we want to purchase the materials because it's fairly low cost. You can see it'll cost us about $4,400. This isn't something where they send you a bunch of free stuff and you get to pilot it with their free package, right? You've got to make this initial investment to use the material. So we're buying set 1 for Emily Hansen at Healdsburg Elementary, and that is designed to be worked with students who are at the K2 level. We're actually buying set 1 and 2 for Danette McCormick at FMC because she does have students who are functionally working at a lower grade level than 3, 4, 5. So we're buying both sets for her at Fitch Mountain. This is a one-time cost. It comes with all these beautiful manipulatives. That was the one thing that struck me when I was in the vendor hall. Just really beautiful manipulatives. So it's not just worksheets. It's not a workbook, and every kid works through the same workbook. There's progress monitoring tools, so teachers can constantly figure out kind of where they're at, how are they doing. I think that's something Diane's always kind of on my little, kind of monkey on my shoulder, like how are we progress monitoring them? How do we know that they're working? How do we know we're at their level and that we're pushing them? And so that was a big requirement is manipulatives and being able to progress monitor students so we can quickly adjust the curriculum that they're working in. So it's a very individualized, yet a full complement. So our teachers aren't having to go on the web and figure this out or, pull the pieces from our core curriculum that might work in that setting. So looking for an approval for this. We're going to pilot it in the second semester, and there would be no additional cost. So I say pilot because we've got to buy it to get it here. But we're not saying this is something we want to use forever and ever. We're going to see if this is what we want, and then we'll keep going with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And Erin, what's the training?
There's a free online training that comes, I think they do, it's like 3 2-hour sessions. And then if that's not sufficient, then we can buy training. They've said since we have veterans, special education teachers, they're probably going to be okay with that online training. But if we want to get a real live 3D human after they go through that, we can get more.
Thank you.
And that comes with the purchase of the curriculum right now. Any other questions or comments, Diane?
And then I will entertain a motion.
And I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. It carries 5-0. And a Title I program, Ms. Fender.
We have slides for this. Slides. She's getting ready for her presentations. So Title I, we'll make this quick. Officially, what is in the LCAP and the single plan or the school plans would cover us for the reporting that we have to do. Since these are real dollars and it's important to pay attention to our students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, we want to highlight Titles I and III. So we went through Title III last time. We'll go through Title I tonight. These slide decks are also modified by the 2 schools. So we use Title I funds at Healdsburg Elementary, K through 5, right? Using Healdsburg Elementary as a school, not a physical building. And then we also use Title I funds at Marcy Becerra. So those administrators also have to give a Title I parent meeting. And so they generally use these slides but personalize it for their school. So we present to you, and then the principals hold a Title I parent meeting. They're both school-wide programs because over 40% of the students in the school are for low income. So we don't have to target just individual students. We can use it programmatically across the campus. Some interesting changes in our numbers, and I'm sorry the font's really small, but we'll maybe start cutting years and just do 3 years instead of 6. So what you can see here is 2 things happening in the numbers, particularly for TK5, right? So if you run your eyes along that top line and see 60, and then all of a sudden we're up at 70% for last school year, right? This is verified data. This is data anybody in the world could go find on DataQuest. So the 21-22 school year. This is largely happened because we're requesting income verification from all families, right? It used to be you would turn in your application for a free or reduced price lunch, and that's how you would be designated. One of the main ways you would be designated socioeconomically disadvantaged. Now we ask for income verification from all families when we register. Part of that is making sure that our titles funds are based on enrollment. So the more information that we get, we've always known, I'll say as a former high school administrator, high school kids are really bad about turning in those forms, and their parents, there's some shame, it's just a hassle. This is what we think is a more true representation that we've known is there in terms of our percentage of socioeconomically disadvantaged students. It's also representing the merge of the 2 schools, right? That K5 number is representing a higher percentage as we've lost some higher income families, just speaking frankly, in the district when the merge of the 2 schools happened. So I'm going to keep So it's not just income that designates a student as socioeconomically disadvantaged. There's a laundry list here. I'm not going to read these for you, but we've also gotten better. I was talking to John Camera, who helps us with all this information as our district data integration specialist. So John was telling me that we're getting better at number 6. The student is directly certified through CalFresh and SNAP. Part of that is some of the outreach that Corazon and our parent and community outreach folks are doing to make sure that families have access to those services. So we've gotten better record keeping, and that's contributing to what looks like an increase on paper, but really is just a truer representation, we think, of our socioeconomically disadvantaged. The first bullet is does not apply because we don't get $500,000. That would be nice, but we don't. And we do offer our nonprofit private schools the ability to participate in this, but none of them do, largely because they don't serve high enough numbers of students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged for them to go through the paperwork with me. It's kind of a hassle. St. John's does participate in Title II, though, for professional development. So undergo a needs assessment like the principals talked about, constantly using that data to see where our highest needs are, and looking at the data by subgroups. It's important to us that, obviously with Title I, that this money is going towards services that we think will best serve socioeconomically disadvantaged. So we'll get there when you see where we put the money in. But when we run much of this data, we try to look at our subgroups. We'll be honest, looking at socioeconomically disadvantaged is a little bit more challenging just because of the nature of the privacy that you want to have for students and families. So it can be a little more challenging. So we're to use the money to make sure that all students are meeting the academic standards, and that students' social and emotional needs are important as their academic needs, right? It can serve the dual purpose. And as we, heard earlier tonight from our mental health specialist, if kids don't feel connected, if kids don't feel well taken care of, they're not going to learn. And so we want to make sure that that's a priority when we think about where and how we spend these funds. So you can see some interesting stuff here in the funding. And again, we'll probably start dropping off some years, but we had a pretty severe dip in funding back there in the 2021-22. Debbie and I have talked about this. Partly just there was less funding from the feds in all of the titles. We've talked about this before, that the defunding of schools by the federal government in all categories. An enrollment dip, right? Our enrollment continues to drop, so that dropped the number. And then all of a sudden, our early projected allocation is almost twice what it was last year. So these numbers always fluctuate on us a little bit, and we try to budget conservatively. So that's what you'll see here in the next 2 slides. But I said to Debbie, I'm like, really? We might get twice as much. So we'll keep our finger on that as we get updates. So this is a summary of, well, it actually is audited, right? Because you gave me this, yeah. Normally I would have done this last month with Title III. We would do Title I and Title III, but last month's agenda was super packed, so we moved us to this. So this is actually audited. So you can see we thought in June of 2021 we might get around $200,000, and then in October we were looking at $100,000, and then actual allocation was $93,000. So we, so when you budget, we didn't fire paraprofessionals. We just have to use more of the general fund, right? So we use this money to help offset our costs for the paraprofessionals that serve at HES. But when the money doesn't come in, then it ends up eating into other funding sources, largely the general fund. Similar, we have 2 school psychologists, right? We're really lucky in that we've got 2 full-time school psychologists in a district of about 1,200, 1,300 kids. Most other districts would have 1 that would be serving K through 12. And so this pays a partial salary of our additional school psychologist. And then you heard from Principal Jones. 10,000 of it goes to help with the contract for big picture learning support. So that was last year. This year, not much has changed, but the dollars, right? We have 84,000 compared to last year. We only were able to put 49,000, right? So if you look in Debbie's budgeting, you're going to see a bigger chunk of our paraprofessional costs coming out of Title I, and similarly school psychologists. So you can see the difference here of 34 versus 78, right? And so those are numbers that we'll play with as actuals come in. The support for big picture, we've signed a contract that's going to stay the same. So any questions or comments about Title I?
No questions, no comments.
Correct.
Okay, with the board permission, I would go back to the previous item, number G, K-5 math curriculum for special educators. I have a card here. I must have missed it. Robin Dowdry would like to make a comment.
So Aaron, I wanted to say I am really excited that you guys are looking at bridges, and I'm really excited that they're going to have manipulatives into the special ed program, because manipulatives are a powerful tool which gives those kids concrete examples to hang the knowledge on so that they can develop new and new knowledge. So using manipulatives for the past 37 years, I know that I hope that there's training to help those teachers to bridge the program from the manipulatives to the paper pencil, because kids cannot manipulate and then just do paper pencil. There has to be hopefully that program has that, where they take the kids through that whole process so that kids, when they start to develop the understanding, will stop using the manipulatives, and that's when the teacher bridges. So I hope that's part of the professional training. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 12.3 school business annual organization meeting.
So we need to designate December 14th as our annual organizational meeting. That is when we swear in a new trustee, and Donna steps down, and then we'll vote in and swear in a new president and vice president, and then assign or designate subcommittee commitments, et cetera. So looking for a motion for December 14th to be designated as the organizational meeting. Yeah, because it's out of our third Wednesday cadence, it will be at HHS.
Thank you.
This room is not available.
Also move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries 5-0. Moving on to 12.3B, Healdsburg School District 2023 Board Meeting Calendar.
So this is the calendar for next year. It's a first read. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the dates, but we try to stick to the third Wednesday as much as possible with a little bit of variance. So,
oh, I know I saw it. Any questions, thoughts, comments? Okay. Moving on to C, emergent, review emergency circumstance. Assembly Bill 361, one more time.
I feel like we're getting close to not doing this anymore, but here it is again. So.
Oh, we have one more.
Zoom board meetings are amazing. Yes.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Carries 5-0. And last, 12.4 personnel, ratification of the superintendent's employment agreement. Any questions or comments? We have a motion.
That was a motion.
That was a motion.
Second.
I
yeah.
second.
I said we have a motion.
Okay.
We do
Sorry.
have a motion.
Okay, I second.
And a second. Any questions, comments? I just will make a comment. I'm very pleased that we are ratifying this, Mr. Superintendent. Let me just say that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries 5-0. Any Board of Trustees reports, comments, requests for information? Seeing none.
Can I just make a quick comment? Diane, I want to recognize you. The stuff that the SEL program, the presentation. I'm losing it now. It's late, but the presentation was amazing. Really felt like I got a better understanding, honestly, of how we use those tools. And I thought it was wonderful to have that be followed by the site plans. It just seems, a validation of the mission and values that we've put forth together. So.
No question. That said, our next regular board meeting is Wednesday, December 14th in the Healdsburg High School Library at 1024 Prince Street. And I'll read more. Monday, December 5th, submit agenda items. And by the 7th, I'll back up material. We will be adjourning to closed session, hopefully for a short period of time, but we'll go to close. This meeting is adjourned.